Item 1 under the regular agenda is a resolution accepting the proposal of First Tennessee Bank National Association in connection with an installment financing for various vehicles and equipment, $3,164,000. Okay, Crystal's not here.
Crystal had to leave, so I'm going to present on her behalf.
Go right ahead.
The resolution before you tonight is our annual financing for the equipment and vehicles that was approved with your 2014 annual budget. That amount is $3,164,000. We sent out requests for proposals to 17 different financial institutions. We received 8 proposals. First Tennessee Bank was the lowest responsible bidder at 1.18%, and our legal fees not to exceed $3,500. Staff recommends the approval of the attached resolution accepting the proposal of First Tennessee, and we will bring back to council in January the final closing documents for this deal.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any idea, I mean, only because First Tennessee Bank National Association is not a common name in Gaston County. Have we ever had any dealings with them?
We have not, and in receiving this proposal, having not worked with them in the past, we talked with our bond counsel about this particular institution, and he has worked with them and closed several deals recently. They are coming to North Carolina, and there's more presence.
Okay. Do we have any idea what the terms are going to be?
This is a 59-month installment.
59 months.
Yes, ma'am. 59-month installment financing, 1.18%, and what we're being told now is the $3,500 not to exceed in legal fees. The estimate is about $2,000 for those.
Okay. Over here on Exhibit 1-4, number 2. The city manager and the director of finance and budget administrator of the city are hereby authorized and directed to execute and deliver such documentation as be necessary to accept the proposal of the bank. When I read that maybe it does not come back to council for final approval. Is that right?
It will, and that is, the financing calendar has that slated for the first meeting in January. It may end up being the second meeting in January just because with the holidays, getting all the closing documents complete, but it will come back before council. What this resolution allows the city manager and I to do is to work on those documents with the bank and with our bond counsel, get them to where we're comfortable with all the closing documents to bring back to you guys for approval. We can sign the closing documents after you guys approve that second set in January.
Okay, that's what I wanted clarified, and that clarifies that. But that 1.18% is a holding rate,
yes,
and it's a fixed rate for 59 months.
Yes, ma'am.
At this point in time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I just want to make a motion that we accept as proposed.
Discussion anymore? All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Item 2 is a traffic ordinance reduction of speed limit on Bed Street. Rusty Ball, city engineer. Rusty?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The item before you tonight is reducing the speed limit on Vance Street between Franklin Boulevard and Garrison Boulevard. I'm going to put a little picture up on the Elmo here so the folks at home and everybody can see on their monitor kind of where this is. This is Franklin Boulevard up here on the top, Garrison Boulevard down here on the bottom. This is the segment of Vance Street right here. This is the Luray Mill project that we just heard about and all the work that's going on here and the Firestone Mill operations back behind it with residential areas down in this area and certainly down on the south side of Garrison Boulevard as well as up on the north side of Franklin and the north side of Airline Avenue there. What the impetus for this request is this spot right in this area is the Gastonia Optimus Park, our Optimus Club Park that we just put in. And I'll throw another drawing up on the Elmo that may help describe what's going on. You see from the park, this is Vance Street over here on this side. And again, the Luray Mill would be up in the right-hand corner. This park sits very close to Vance Street. Not many of our parks sit this close to a street. And for that reason, because of the nature of a park and the nature of the use of this park, it's a passive park, and it's supposed to be have a strong neighborhood component. We expect a lot of these residential areas to actually walk to this park. That's why you see there's not a whole lot of parking included in this. It would be a very proactive and a big safety improvement if we could reduce the speed from 35 miles an hour to the standard 25 mile an hour speed limit that we typically use in these areas. I got a couple other pictures that just give you a feel for the neighborhood and what we're doing there with the park involving Vance Street. This is looking from at the park, looking kind of north up towards Franklin Boulevard. You can see on the upper right-hand corner there is the skyline view, I guess, of the Luray Mill project. The park is on your left, and there's a small little parking area there on the right that Firestone owns, and we're working with them to establish some parking there for folks that do have to drive to the park. And we have the crosswalk there in the middle that you see on a raised, kind of a raised crosswalk that we put in. Looking at it from the other direction towards Garrison, you can kind of see these are both construction action photos that we had in the library there. You can kind of see how it slopes down towards Garrison, and we just feel that there's going to be a lot of pedestrian activity going on here, and we really wanted to reduce that speed limit and try to improve the safety for the new park. Staff recommends, again, reducing that speed limit, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Todd?
I was just gonna make a motion to approve.
All right, is there a second? Larry, second, okay. Discussion?
Okay, thank you. I am 150% in support of reducing the speed limit. There's through traffic from Franklin and from Garrison that cut through there. And I was glad to hear Luray saying that they maybe were going to try to open Second, because there's an awful lot of traffic coming down on Vance because they can't go straight through Second. The other thing, what I would like to just throw out and have staff look at is either putting some additional tables, if that's what they're called, to also slow down the traffic, or speed humps, okay? I'm not real sure that I understand the difference between the two, but that's an engineering issue. I would like for staff to look at that, because I think that once Luray opens and they do start getting some activity in there, I think Vance is going to continue to have more and more traffic. So the 25-mile speed limit is great, but I think that if we were able to do something else to slow that traffic down, it would be just as beneficial. So I'll just give that as an idea.
Absolutely, we'd be glad to look at that. I think routinely, just recently, FHWA released a new study about speed humps and speed tables and how they work. And you try to stay on top of the latest research, but you also want to make sure that whatever they're saying is applicable to the context of your community. You don't want to just take stuff out of a book and set it down somewhere just because it says you can. So we would definitely want to take a look at that and keep our options open and see what can be done. Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Rusty, when you're reviewing Mayor Pro Tem Craig's request, that may be a good area for us to try some of the rubberized speed calming devices. I see with the road width, visiting the Optimus Park, I think that could pay us some dividends as far as the ease of installation and also ease of maintenance in that area. So I might want to take a look at that.
We continually look for new products on the market and do research on them and give things a try and wash them out. We'll be glad to do that. We've looked at those in the past. There have been maintenance issues with them in the past. We find that the permanent asphalt ones actually hold up better. They don't damage the road quite as bad as drilling the holes in the road to mount those rubber things into it. But again, we always keep an eye open for new technologies and new ways to do things. So we would absolutely be looking at that. Yes, sir.
And the reason I bring that up is in keeping with some of the area of Luray and also the Optimus Park. There's products out there now, I believe they're about nearly 100% from recycled materials.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real strong point, I think, for what we're trying to do in that whole area with the rehabilitation of the mill and also taking that land and making the park out of it. That's why I suggested it. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Anything else?
One more comment though. Certainly, I'm in favor of this and the park we have there. Definitely want to protect adults, kids, citizens who are there. But we're talking about adding speed humps and stuff. I want everybody to be cognizant before we run down there and start throwing speed humps in. We have a huge waiting list of other neighborhoods and areas where we wait for years for speed humps. So I don't want this all of a sudden move to the top of the list, and then everybody else is saying, okay, 3 years now, because you threw one out there. So let's kind of keep that in mind of on priorities and so forth, and budget. So just, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but certainly keep that in mind as we move forward with this.
Yes, sir.
That's all.
Okay. Is there a motion?
We've got a motion and a second.
Is there ready to vote? Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing conveyance of real property of historic and architectural significance, 319 South Van Street and 326 South Van Street, Preservation, North Carolina. I'd like to call on Attorney Ash Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm filling in Myra's absence tonight. She's not feeling well. You will recall in September, the council accepted the donation of 2 properties in the Luray Mill area. We're back on Vance Street, 319 Vance Street and 326 Vance Street. The city accepted the donation of those properties from Wells Fargo on the condition that we're going to turn around and convey them to Preservation North Carolina, who's going to put preservation covenants in place so that when the properties are sold, they're redeveloped in a fashion appropriate to the Luray Village. So it is in front of council to authorize the resolution conveying the property to Preservation North Carolina. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Smith? Yes, sir.
Ash, do we have something in place legally that these properties will be maintained? I mean, this isn't going to be a situation where they can't be sold, that come this spring, summer, the grass is going to be getting high, there's going to be things falling off the house, that sort of thing. This is not going to become an eyesore and one of those situations, and we're saying, well, it's Preservation North Carolina, we really can't do anything about it. We gave them the houses. I mean, I want to make sure the city can go in and say, and if they aren't sold and they aren't kept up, that the city can go in and dictate that they be maintained.
Yeah, the properties would be subject to the same ordinances about tall weeds and grass and nuisance conditions as any other property.
So there will be no exemptions or anything.
Now, we have a tradition of working with Preservation North Carolina. When they owned the Luray property for a long time, you know, the grass got, you know, higher than we liked, and we would have to ask them to cut it, and they would cut it. But it was a little bit of give and take there.
And I
Sure.
understand, you know, being the Luray Mill, that we're talking
Right.
about 2 residential properties now.
Yes, sir.
I don't-
They're subject to the same ordinances and as any other dwelling.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Ash. Item